Hello everyone. Welcome to your easy guide to cracking the English section to CLAT examination. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss the various types of questions and what are the various strategies that we can employ to deal with those questions. Okay. Now, before we get to the lecture, as usual, we'll start with our oh my god, what is this section? So, now in today's lecture, I have brought a full fledged passage and we'll try to solve this quickly so we get a sense of more how the real exam question will be. Okay. So, I'll try to go through this rather quickly. Okay. You can maybe go at your own pace, pause at this point, and read at your own pace if you're in the starting phase of your preparation. So, here we go. We cannot travel outside our neighborhood without passports. We must wear the same plain clothes. We must exchange our houses every 10 years. We cannot avoid labor. We all go to the bed at the same time. We have religious freedom, but we cannot deny that the soul dies within the body. Since, but for the fear of punishment, they would have nothing but contempt for the laws and customs of society. In Moore's time, for much of the population, given the plenty and the security on offer, such restraints would not have seemed overly unreasonable. For modern readers, however, utopia appears to rely upon relentless transparency, the repression of variety, and the curtailment of privacy. Utopia provides security, but at what price? In both its external and internal relations, indeed, it seems perilously dystopian. Such a conclusion might be fortified by examining selectively the tradition which follows more on these points. These often portrays society where it would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. This is achieved both through institutions and mores, which underpin the common life. The passions are regulated and inequalities of wealth and distinctions are minimized. Needs, vanity, and emulation are restrained, often by prizing equality and holding riches in contempt. The desire for public power is curbed. Marriage and sexual intercourse are often controlled. In Tommaso Campanella's The City of Sun, 1623, the first great literary utopia after More's relations are forbidden to men before the age of 21 and women before 19. The communal child rearing is normal. For Campanella, this commences at the age of 2. Greater simplicity of life, living according to nature, is often a result. The desire for simplicity and purity are closely related. People become more alike in appearance, opinion, and outlook than they have often been. Unity, order, and homogeneity thus prevails at the cost of individuality and diversity. This model, as J.C. Davis demonstrates, dominated early modern utopianism, and utopia homogeneity remains a familiar theme well into the 20th century. Given these considerations, it is not unreasonable to take our starting point here the hypothesis that utopia and dystopia evidently share more in common than is often supposed. Indeed, they might be twins, the progeny of the same parents. Insofar as this proves to be the case, my linkage of both here will be uncomfortably close for some readers. Yet, we should not mistake this argument for the assertion that all utopias are or tend to produce dystopias. Those who defend this proposition will find that their association here is not nearly close enough. For we have only to acknowledge the existence of thousands of successful intentional communities in which a cooperative ethos predominates and where harmony without coercion is the rule to set aside such an assertion. Here, the individual submersion in the group is consensual, though this concept is not unproblematic. It results not in enslavement but voluntary submission to group norms. Harmony is achieved without harming others. So, there are a lot of difficult words that have been used in this passage. I would want you to underline them and look for those. For example, अगर आपको यूटोपिया का मतलब नहीं पता है डिस्टोपिया का मतलब नहीं पता है then you will face a lot of problems in dealing with the questions. But let's try to solve the question at this point. At this point, when you do not understand a lot of words that have been used in the passage, So all of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except that. That means of the four options that are provided to you, three are the inference that you can draw from the passage. That means some logical conclusions that you can draw from the information that has been provided from the passage. So three of those statements will be present in the passage in form of a logical conclusion, and you have to find out which of the following four is not one of those. Okay. So the option one is utopian and dystopian societies are twins, the progeny of the same parents. Utopian societies exist in long tradition of literature dealing with imaginary people practicing imaginary customs in imaginary worlds. Third, many conceptions of utopian societies emphasize the importance of social uniformity and cultural homogeneity. Fourth, it is possible to see utopias as dystopias with a change in perspective because one person's utopia could be seen as another's dystopia. Question number two, which of the from the following passage, which of the following may be seen as characteristic of utopian society? So you may want to go back to the passage and maybe pause, read, because I know in this format it's slightly difficult to look at the passage at once and question at once, but this is for giving you an idea of the level of questions and a bit of a practice. So if you are on the slower side here, don't worry. Okay, so where was I? The second question. Which of the following may be seen as characteristic of a utopian society? First, the regulation of homogeneity through promoting competitive heterogeneity. Second, a society where public power is earned through merit rather than through privilege. Third, institutional surveillance of every individual to ensure his or her security and welfare. Fourth, a society without any laws to restrain one's individuality. Now you can again go back to the points. Okay, I'll just quickly go back to the passage so that you can just pause and look, pause and look, pause and look. Okay. Now the third question. All of the following arguments are made in the passage except. That means of the four options here, the three options reflect the arguments that are made in the passage, and you have to find out the fourth one, which is not reflected in the passage. Okay. In Moore's time, there was plenty and security. So people did not need restraints that could appear unreasonable. Second, there have been thousands of communities where homogeneity and stability have been achieved through choice rather than force. Third, in early modern utopianism, the stability of a utopian societies was seen to be achieved only with individuals surrendering their sense of self. Fourth, the tradition of utopian literature has always shown societies in which it would be nearly impossible for anyone to be sinful or criminal. Now, again, I'll get back to the passage. Pause and look, pause and look, pause and look. So, you try to find the answers, and I'll directly head to the answer. So, the question one, the answer to this question can be found in the last paragraph. The author starts by saying that utopia and dystopia evidently share more in common. Indeed, they might be twins. So, what was the question? So, I mean, I have given a detailed option analysis. So, you can look at them and you can solve them. The idea of introducing it here at this point was just to give you an idea that you have to keep practicing. So, I have given an explanation. So, I'll head to the lecture today. Okay. So, what are the objectives of today's lecture? We will be looking at the different types of questions that may be asked in the CLAT reading comprehension section. We'll try to understand the different categories. We'll try to learn the strategies to tackle each of these question types efficiently. And we'll also try to identify traps and common mistakes in these answer choices that may be committed so we can avoid them while solving the questions. Now, introduction to the question types. The CLAT reading comprehension question tests your ability to understand, analyze, and infer information from the passage. So, the idea of introducing this section is to understand, analyze, and infer information from the passage because as a lawyer, that's going to be your bread and butter. Now, questions are not always direct. They may require logical reasoning, as we have already seen. Identifying the question type is crucial for answering them efficiently. So you can think of them like a cricket match, different kind of balls. If you know the type of balls, you'll know what kind of shot you want to take on them. And hence, that understanding the type of question is very important. So you know what type of approach you have to take to solve them. So primarily there are six broad categories of questions that may be asked. So first one is must be true or most supported argument. You find the most accurate inference from the passage to support the question, the statement that the question is asking. Second is the main point. We have also dealt with this in the previous lecture. The main point question, you have to identify the author's central idea in the passage. Third is strengthen the argument. So we have to select an option that supports the argument, that strengthens the argument that has been asked in the question. Again, weakens the argument. You have to choose an answer that undermines or weakens the argument that the question is asking you. Fifth is the parallel reasoning. That is to identify a similar pattern of reasoning from the options. And sixth is cannot be true. You have to eliminate options that contradict the passage or the specific line that has been asked in the question. So let's head to the each type of question. First is the must be true or most supported question. Now, must be true questions, they require you to select an answer choice that is proven by the information presented in the passage. The correct answer choice can be a paraphrase of the part, that means exact lines that are mentioned in the passage, or it can be an inference from the one or more parts of the passage. So paraphrase means the exact lines from the passage, or inference that means the some sort of logical conclusion that you reach when you read some information in the passage. We have also dealt with inference in the previous lecture. So you have to make sure that when you're selecting an answer, you must find the proof from the passage that supports it. So, like I've mentioned in the previous lectures also, that you don't have to put in your information. You have to be very cautious about it. That if the passage is saying the sky is blue, so you have to follow that the sky, sorry, I'm sorry. If the passage is saying that the sky is yellow, so you have to follow that the sky is yellow. You don't have to go with the common sense or the common knowledge that the sky is blue. So you have to pick the information that are provided in the passage and be very, very cautious about it. This is a very a position of trap where a lot of students commit a lot of mistakes, that they bring in their own common sense or common knowledge and they fall in the trap that the author that the questioner has set for them. So be very cautious about it. So to attack the must be true type of questions, and if there is a specific reference in the question that has been asked, that there is some specific line that has been given, and then you have to answer what must be true or what is the most supported argument for this line, then you have to find that exact line in the passage. And again, when you're reading the passage, you have to keep in mind the structure, the viewpoint. So you will remember where that exact line is, in which part of the passage, because you have already noticed the structure of the passage. So you have to refer to which to that exact line in the passage and start with 2 3 lines above that exact position where that line is written, because you have to see where the whole context of that line. So it's better to start 2 3 lines above from where that line exactly is mentioned in the passage. Okay, so you reach to a logical conclusion to completely understand that what that whole line or what that whole line of argument is, because you cannot just look at the phrase of argument and just solve the question, because sometimes if you follow the whole line from the starting to the end, there is that it can have one kind of start, and the end it could be totally reversed from the position. So it's better to start 2 3 lines above, and to be more risk free, read at least 2 lines below. So you're sure, okay, this is what the whole argument is in this 4 5 line section. Okay. Now let's try to solve a small passage and see how to solve this kind of question. The passage goes, in recent years, scientific studies have revealed that certain species of birds are capable of recognizing themselves in mirrors, a trait previously thought to be exclusive to humans and some primates. This discovery has led researchers to reconsider their understanding of avian intelligence. While many animals react to their reflection as if encountering another individual, birds such as McTees and crows exhibit behaviors that suggest self-awareness, including using the mirror to inspect otherwise unseen parts of their bodies. Okay, so this was your passage. Now, which of the following must be true based on the passage? So, amongst the 4 options that are provided to you, you have to see that from the information that is given in the passage, which of the 4 option can be like the most surest inference that you can draw. Okay, it has to be like cannot be uncertainly true. You have to be, the inference should be sure is that, okay, there has been enough information provided in the passage for you to draw that specific inference. You cannot be uncertain about it. Okay, so must be true. So option A goes like, only magpies and crows exhibit self awareness among birds. B, self awareness in birds proves that intelligence is not limited to primates. C, some animals react to mirrors as if encountering another individual. And D, birds that recognize themselves in mirrors have higher intelligence than primates. So I'll switch back to the passage. You can pause here and maybe look again, quickly read through it and go back to question again. So you can read through the question again. You can pause. Okay, I'm just trying to make things simpler for you. So you can just pause and read again and try to answer the question. So let's head to the solution. So the correct answer is option C, that some animals react to mirrors as if encountering another individual, because this is directly stated in the passage. The line that while many animals react to their reflection as if encountering another individual. So some animals react to mirror as if encountering another individual. So while many, if they, like we had done this in the previous lecture again, many animals, if there are many animals that are reacting, then you can certainly draw the inference that some animals are definitely reacting. So this is a sure shot logical conclusion, must be true type of conclusion that you can draw from the passage. Now we can also analyze the other options why they are not correct. So the option A goes like, only magpies and crows exhibit self-awareness among birds. So as I have told you so many times, that when there are extreme words like all, always, only, be very wary of these words. Be very cautious. It's very less likely for these words, for the options containing these words to be true. So only magpies and crows is nowhere mentioned. It has given two examples, but there can be more. So the passage only mentions magpies and crows, but there does not exclude other birds. There could be more, but there are just two examples that have been mentioned. So only makes it very extreme and hence incorrect choice. B, self awareness in birds proves that intelligence is not limited to primates. Now, again, the passage suggests reconsideration of avian intelligence, but it does not make any definitive claim about the intelligence limits. Okay. The D, birds that recognize themselves in mirrors have higher intelligence than primates. Now, there has been no such comparison that has been made in the passage about the intelligence of primates and the birds. So, this is higher, this is lower. So, this is also not a sure shot logical inference that can be drawn, and hence you cannot be sure that this must be true. Okay, so this is how you go about this kind of question. Now we get to the second category, that is main point questions. Again, we have dealt with this specific category in detail in our previous lectures. So I would recommend you that you go and watch that part at least, because I've dealt with this part more in detail there. Here it will be more like just a revision and we'll look at the example. So these questions ask for author's primary argument. What exactly is the crux of the passage? What exactly is the strongest argument? Not just the strongest, but the overall argument, overall opinion of the author that has been made in the passage. So this is the main point question. Now the trap answers could be they are supporting the details that do not cover the entire passage. So there could be options that reflect the view that has been mentioned in the first paragraph only, or the view that has been mentioned in the second paragraph only. So sometimes students think, okay, this is mentioned in the paragraph, I'm sure this could be the main point. So they in a hurry they choose that option. But you have to be very mindful of the fact that the main point is the point that is reflected all through the question. In one paragraph there could be pros about a subject, in second paragraph it could be cons about the subject, but the overall point is about the balance of both. So if there is an option that is mentioning about the pros, that is not the main point, that is one of the points but not the main point. Okay, so you have to one kind of strategy could be that you ask yourself, if the author had to tweet the passage, if you have to write it in limited words, what would they say? That what is the crux of the passage? For example, a passage on environmental policies may discuss plastic bans, but if the overall focus is on global warming, then that's the main point. Like I said, that in order to get to the main point, the author brings a lot of supporting arguments, supporting points, but those are not your main point. Your main point is the main conclusion. So be mindful of it. Okay. Again, this was again mentioned in the previous slide, but it is so important that I have brought this again here. There are two types of incorrect answers that frequently appear in the main point questions. The answers that are true but do not encapsulate the author's point. That some options will be there that commonsensically sound true, and even in the alignment with the passage, they might sound true, but the author has not made that point. So, because sometimes students think, yeah, commonsensically this is true, and this is also related to the subject of the passage, it must be the main point, but you have to be very mindful of it, that the whether the author has said something like that or not. So it has to be the author's point. And second, the answers that repeat portions of the passage but not the main point. Like I said, there are a passage has so many different points, so many different opinions or arguments, but there is one main point where all these points are leading you to. So you have to see what is that main point where this all these points are leading you to. All these different points are stairs, and your main point is the destination. Do not be fooled by the stairs. Do not be fooled by the substitute points or the secondary points. You have to look for the main point. Okay, because this is the one of the most common type of question, and a lot of people fall for these two major kind of traps that the questionnaire sets for the students. So each answer type is attractive because they are true based on what you have read. However, neither of the points summarizes the author's main point, and therefore both are incorrect. Another type of question that may be asked in the category of authors on the main point is the author's perspective question. So sometimes it does not, the question is not directly framed as what is the main point of the passage, but sometimes which of the following best reflects the author's perspective. So it asks you to select the answer choices that best reflect the author's view on a subject or the author's attitude towards a subject. Attitude also means the tone. We have also talked about the tone. So which of the following best reflects author's tone towards a subject? Because identifying the position of author is critical part of your strategy when reading. Normally these questions should be relatively painless because we've gone through the whole view stem methodology, and we are reading with certain signposts in our mind. So these things should automatically be a part of your reading process when you're reading the passage. So these questions may be framed as the author of the passage would most likely agree with which of the following statements, or it can be inferred that the author of the passage believes which of the following about, say, history of modern art, if the passage is about modern art or any subject for that matter. Or it can also be framed as it can be reasonably inferred from the passage that the author's attitude is most favorable towards which one of the following. So this is also belongs to the category of main point questions, because when you're reading and you have some idea of main point, even in tackling with these kind of questions that are framed in these words, the answer you are looking for is the main point of the whole passage. Okay, now let's look at a practice passage. So the passage argues for the adoption of the new Gayson-Tremaine standards for measuring educational progress among American school children, because these standards take into account cultural and socioeconomic factors that can impact some students more than others. The author pays particular attention to the deficiencies of current measures in addressing underprivileged youth achievement. So, which one of the following most accurately expresses the main point of the passage? The Gayson-Tremaine standards account for the cultural and socio-economic factors. B. The author believes that the current educational progress measurement system is flawed. C. The new Gayson-Tremaine standards should be adopted. D. Educational measurement standards need continuous improvement. E. Underprivileged students perform worse due to cultural and socioeconomic factors. So I'll switch to the passage. You can pause and reread it maybe. And I will switch to the question again. You can again pause it and reread it and try to solve. And I will head to the solution now. So the right answer is option C. The new Gayson-Tremaine standards should be adopted, as is evident in the first line itself, that the passage argues for the adoption of these standards, making it the central argument. Matlab, this was the quite simple because it was a very small passage and it was clearly stated this in the first line itself. So it's a clear summary of the author's viewpoint. Now, looking at the incorrect choices, the option A says the Geisen-Tremaine standards account for cultural and socioeconomic factors. Now, this is again, like I said, it's a trap option. So, while this is mentioned in the passage, it is one of the points, but this is not the main points. It's a supporting detail. Option B, the author believes that the current educational measurement system is flawed. Again, this is a premise supporting the argument, but this is not the main point. These are the steps. This is not the destination. Option D, educational measurement standards need continuous improvement. This is a broad generalization and it does not capture the specific argument that is made in the passage. It's very generalized line, just somewhere near the theme of the passage. Option E, the underprivileged students perform worse due to cultural and socioeconomic factors. This is an effect that is mentioned in the passage, but it does not reflect the main argument. Okay. Now, the third category strengthens the argument question. Now, for this category, you have to choose an answer that strengthens the author's claim. So, if you're struggling to imagine what exactly, which argument is strengthening the author's claim, you imagine yourself in a debate and see what all points are there in the passage that are defending or challenging the argument that is the main argument of the passage. For example, if the passage states homework improves students' learning, so an argument that could strengthen this conclusion that homework improves students' learning could be research shows higher grades among students with homework. So, because the research is saying that if students are doing homework, they are getting a higher grade. That means it is supporting the fact that homework should be given and it improves the student learning because they are getting higher grades. So, this argument is strengthening the argument that has been made in the passage. Now, an example how an argument could be weakening the argument that is made in the passage. It could be homework increases stress without improving performance. So you have to look for the arguments that strengthen the passage's main argument, or the argument that are weakening the main argument of the passage. So let's see how this can be done. So to make this a little fun, I have brought this question from the movie Kabir Singh. I hope you might have watched it. Even if you have not, it doesn't matter. All the information that you need is here in the passage. So in the movie Kabir Singh, the protagonist is the hero, the protagonist's aggressive and obsessive behavior is justified as an intense form of love. The movie suggests that his extreme actions stem from deep emotional turmoil and an inability to cope with loss, rather than from toxic masculinity or entitlement. The film portrays his love for Preeti as the defining force that drives his actions. What does the word entitlement mean? Look for it. It's very important. Today, and I'll also use it in a another easier sentence that a lot of white women feel entitled, and hence there are so many instances of them calling 911. Or a lot of rich kids feel too entitled and hence they behave rudely with the a lot of people they come across. So now try to find what does the word entitlement means. Now the question, which one of the following, if true, most strengthens the argument made in the passage? So once you read the passage, you have to see what this passage is about. At the end of it, you should have a idea of about what exactly is the main point of the passage. Only then can you solve this kind of question. So the option A is research suggests that intense emotional attachment can lead to irrational behavior in relationships. B. Many critics argue that Kabir Singh glorifies toxic masculinity rather than portraying love. C. In several real life cases, individuals struggling with emotional trauma exhibit similar obsessive behavior. D. The film's director stated that Kabir Singh is meant to be a character study and not a love story. So again, you can go back to passage, read it, pause it, read it. You can come back to the question, pause it, read it, and I will be heading to the solution. So the correct answer is A. The research suggests that intense emotional attachment can lead to irrational behavior in the relationship. Okay, so this is the argument that in the passage that Kabir Singh's actions stem from deep emotional turmoil and not toxicity. So option A strengthens this claim by providing external evidence, research that supports the idea that emotional distress can lead to irrational action. Now, if we try to analyze the incorrect answers, B. Many critics argue that Kabir Singh glorifies toxic masculinity. This is weakening the argument. Okay. Option C. In several real life cases, individuals struggling with emotional trauma exhibit similar obsessive behavior. While this is relevant, it only provides an example rather than directly proving or strengthening the argument. Matlab, an example is not necessarily strengthening the argument. D. The film's director stated that Kabir Singh is meant to be a character study and not a love story. Now, again, this relates to an interpretation rather than strengthening the argument about Kabir's emotional state. I mean, this is not really strengthening the argument. Okay. Now, on the very similar line, if some argument is making the main argument strong, similarly, going in the reverse direction, there can be arguments that may be given to weaken the stated argument. Okay. So, again, an example could be in movie Kabir Singh, the protagonist's aggressive and obsessive behavior is justified as a passionate form of love. The film portrays his action as a result of deep emotional pain, suggesting that his love for Preeti makes his behavior acceptable. So the question is, which of the following weakens the argument presented in the passage? So option A, many viewers found Kabir Singh's character relatable and believed it reflected intense emotions. B, studies show that toxic relationships are often damaging rather than expressions of true love. C, the film's box office success proves that audiences accepted Kabir's love story. D, Bollywood has produced many films where extreme love is portrayed dramatically. Now, okay, since the passage is here on this page only, you can just pause and maybe reread. So the answer is option B. Studies show that toxic relationships are often damaging rather than expression of true love. So while the passage is saying that sometimes obsessive love, I mean, there is like the last line, the full portrays his action as a result of deep emotional pain. That while his behavior seemed to be unacceptable, but it is rooted in the deep emotional pain that he feels for, or that is rooted in his love for Preeti. So the argument in the passage is that while the behavior is not acceptable, but the roots are his love for Preeti. So the argument that is weakening this main argument that has been made in this passage is studies show that toxic relationships are often damaging rather than expression of true love. That while the passage is saying that obsessive love is rooted in true love, but on the contrary, studies have shown that toxic relationships are damaging rather than expression of true love. So it is weakening the main argument of the passage. Okay, the passage argues that Kabir's behavior is justified as love, but these are damaging and cannot be justified, sort of cannot be considered as true love. So option B is the correct option, because it directly weakens this claim by stating that such behavior is actually harmful, it's damaging, which is contradicting the passage's main argument. Now, if we look at the other options, many viewers found Kabir's character relatable. This supports the passage and does not weakens it. That okay, a lot of people have experienced it, and hence it is strengthening the argument of the passage. That okay, a lot of people have felt it and they have lived this, so probably this is true. Option C, the film's box office success proves that audience accepted it. Again, popularity does not mean that the argument is valid, so it's an irrelevant option. Option D, Bollywood has produced many films showing extreme love. Again, just because it is common, it doesn't mean that it is justified. So the argument that has been made in the passage is about justification of obsessive behavior, which is on the basis of love. That if somebody is doing some sort of obsessive behavior or is exhibiting toxic behavior, it is to some level justified because it is coming out of that person's true love. But the option that is showing that studies have shown that toxic relationship is damaging is weakening the main argument of the passage. Okay. Now, another category, parallel reasoning question. Now, parallel means something that is again on the parallel, like you've learned about parallel lines. One line is parallel to the other if they are equidistant and do not meet. So something of that sort, that you have to identify a choice that mirrors the passage's reasoning pattern. It focuses on the logical structure rather than the topic. So, if the original passage follows a cause and effect structure, the correct answer must mirror that pattern of logic, even if the subject matter is different. Okay, for example, if the passage says, if it rains, the ground gets wet, the correct answer should follow the same pattern of reasoning, that is, cause and effect. Cause is the rain, effect is the ground getting wet. So a parallel reasoning could be, if you study, you get good grades. Cause is studying, effect is getting good grades. So this is parallel reasoning question. Now let's try to solve the question. In a recent study, it was found that individuals who regularly engage in physical exercise, they tend to have a better mental health. The researchers concluded that maintaining a consistent workout routine leads to improved psychological well-being. Which of the following arguments exhibit a pattern of reasoning most similar to that in the passage? Option A. Students who study regularly achieve higher grades. Therefore, consistent study habits result in academic success. Cause and effect. People who eat a balanced diet are healthier. Thus, a balanced diet is essential for good health. Individuals who sleep 8 hours a night feel more rested. Hence, sleeping 8 hours leads to a better restfulness. D. Employees who take short breaks during work are more productive. Therefore, taking short breaks increases work productivity. E. Drivers who follow traffic rules have fewer accidents. Thus, adhering to traffic rules prevents accidents. So let's get back to the passage. You can pause and reread to see the line of logical reasoning that has been made here. Question. You can reread the question. A pattern of reasoning that is most similar to that in passage. And let's head to the answer. The answer is, employee who take short breaks during work are more productive. Therefore, taking short breaks, increases the work productivity. Why? Because the argument in the passage establishes a cause and effect relationship. So, first is engaging in regular exercise is the cause, mental health is the effect. Now, option D follows the same logical pattern. Taking short breaks at work is the cause, increased productivity is the effect. Both statements suggest that specific action directly improves an outcome, making them parallel in reasoning. Now, if you look at the other options, students who study regularly achieve higher grades. Therefore, consistent study habits result in academic success. This follows a correlation. I'm sorry, while I was reading, I didn't pay much attention to it. It is not exactly a cause and effect, it's a correlation pattern. So, it is not a direct cause and effect that, okay, read this, they have studied regularly and hence they have got good grades. Not on those lines. Option B, people who eat a balanced diet are healthier. Thus, a balanced diet is essential for good health. This is a general statement rather than cause and effect relationship. It is not showing that the balanced diet has led to this. So it's not a cause and effect relationship. Option C, individuals who sleep 8 hours a night feel more rested. Hence, sleeping 8 hours a night lead to better restfulness. This is a definitional reasoning and it is not parallel to the passage. Option E, drivers who follow traffic rules have fewer accidents. Thus, adhering to traffic regulations prevents accidents. This suggests a preventive measure rather than a direct cause and effect relationship. So you have to see which is the closest to which is the exactly the logical reasoning that has been followed in the passage. Okay, so we have included one more passage for the same category. In the movie Dangal, Mahavir Singh, again, if you have not watched the movie, it doesn't matter. It is just to grab your attention. Maybe sometimes if you're feeling bored, you can enjoy it a bit because you've watched the movie. So you're getting, it's just to make your attention directed at the question. Okay. So in the movie Dangal, Mahavir Singh Fogart, that is Amir Khan's character, believes that rigorous training and discipline are essential for his daughters to become world class wrestlers. He enforces a strict training regime, waking them up early, controlling their diet, and making them practice daily. As a result, both Geeta and Babita achieve success in wrestling at the national and international levels. Which of the following most closely follows the same pattern of reasoning as presented in the passage? A. A student who consistently prepares for competitive exams through daily practice and revision eventually clears the CLAT exam. B. A cricketer who eats healthy food maintains good fitness level. C. A businessman invests in multiple industries and earns high proteins from one of them. D. A singer who practices occasionally is able to maintain a decent voice but does not improve significantly. E. A tourist visits multiple cities but only enjoys a few of them. Okay, you can go back to the passage, pause, reread it, question, pause, reread it. So the answer is, I mean, it's quite clear. A student who consistently prepares for the competitive exams through daily practice and revision eventually clears the CLAT exam. So we've seen that the line of argument in the passage is that Mr. Fogart, Mahavir Singh Fogart, made them practice daily, and hence this led to them becoming a great world class wrestlers. So even in the first option, the similar line of argument has been presented. So it establishes a cause and effect relationship. Rigorous training and discipline cause success in the wrestling effect. Option A follows the same logical pattern. Consistent study and practice is the cause. Cracking the CLAT examination is the effect. So there has been an mention of consistent efforts here, like rigorous training, discipline, waking up early, controlling diet. So the consistent efforts leading to effect. So option A follows the same logical pattern. Okay. The other option, a cricketer who eats healthy food maintains good fitness level. This is about health maintenance, and there is no cause and effect related relationship seen in this statement. A businessman invests in multiple industries and earns high profits from one of them. Again, it's not at all a cause and effect statement. A singer who practices occasionally is able to maintain a decent voice but does not improve significantly. I mean, I don't think anybody would have any doubt in this statement. This does not even try to fool also. It's very clearly in different universe. Option E, a tourist visits multiple cities but only enjoys a few of them. Again, no cause and effect pattern visible here. So the option is the first one. So these are the type of questions that we have dealt with today, and there are some more left. We'll try to cover them in our next lecture. So this was all for today. Thank you.